All right, ladies and gentlemen, by my watch, we're at 17:35. We were waiting on making sure everyone had arrived. I am Lieutenant Colonel Joel Gleason of the United States Army. I'm the Army's garrison commander here on the island, which means that I run the Army's facilities here. But this is we've got a bigger crowd than usual, so I'm going to add a few opening remarks that I don't normally throw in. So welcome to the Okinawa District Advisory Committee. This meeting serves as the collective place where all the things you do at your school advisory committees feed up to. So, we're looking to basically set a body here that replaces the what a smaller installation elsewhere would have, an installation advisory committee, and probably there are 4 schools. We have the benefit of 13 Dodea schools here on the island that we get to have support our community, our families, our children. And so we have a bigger group that we gather. And we have representation from all of the services here at the head table. At the first meeting, we kind of, whoever got their finger on their nose the slowest ended up being the president and having to memorize Robert's Rule of Order. So here I am, I'm slow. We also have Mr. Thomas from the Air Force Mission Support Group. And sir, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi. Bill Thomas. I replaced Paul Keenan from the MSG. Paul is now in Edwards Air Force Base. So if you have any questions for MSG, my email address is william.thomas.11@us.af.mil. And my DSN is 634-1804.
I'm Colonel Logan Depew. I am the Inspector General for Marine Corps Installations Pacific. If you want to find my information, it's posted all over the place as the IG. And happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, and before I introduce our superintendent and pass it off to him for his introductory remarks, just going to put out, we discussed ahead of time, knowing that we've got a couple of topics that have greater community interest. First of all, General Bowers, I think, is in the room. Sir, welcome, and thank you very much for your attendance. As well as on the Air Force side, we have Colonel Doan here for the Mission Support Group. Sir, thank you for your attendance. So we have an agenda we're going to go through, and then when we get to the end, we get to some open remarks. The way that we're going to do that tonight, really not dramatically different than how we normally do it, just there's a bigger crowd is looking to make remarks, is we will go first to the school advisory committees and or their selected representatives. If there's anyone who's representing a group other than those school advisory committees, we will try to recognize those people representing more than just themselves. Then what we want to do when we go to the individual comments is we want to first prioritize any youth who have a comment they want to make, because it's also a developmental opportunity. We're here supporting the schools. We ought to be supporting the learning of our youngsters. And then we'll go to the general audience, and I think it'll be a long meeting, but we'll get a lot of information out together. The final thing I will say before I turn it over to the superintendent is tonight's meeting is being live streamed via Facebook or YouTube, or it's being live streamed anyway. And the intent of that live streaming is we know that though there's no specified health risk when we're talking to our hospital personnel, our preventive med professionals, there is concern in the community. So if somebody wanted to tune in without coming in, they have that option. And additionally, as there is public interest in some of our topics tonight, just gives another venue where people can get that information out. And so with that, I will turn it over to our superintendent, Mr. Jim Journey.
Thank you, Colonel Gleason. And again, I will say thank you to Sterling Heights and their PTO for furnishing snacks tonight, and also for opening up their facility to us. This was scheduled ahead of time, and we had some calls and some folks who said, why are you hosting a large group meeting like this? Why, can it be done completely via Facebook Live? Could you change venues? Could you do those things? And honestly, I didn't think of that until about yesterday afternoon, and by that point, it was a little bit late for doing that. We do try and do it in the schools because it's school business, and it's something that we actually want to manage in the schools. And so it gives you an opportunity, or gives community members an opportunity to see the different schools, be in different schools, and hear the issues, challenges, and things, and great things that are going on in our schools. I know we've got lots of big topics tonight, and the first one that I want to start with is COVID-19. You know, it's an ever-changing situation. Each and every day we get new guidance and new information from that. And so we are relying on the guidance from USFJ, as well as our local military treatment facilities, and following up with those recommendations for that. Some of the things that you've probably read on Facebook, because those are the very best places to get news, is, you know, all the schools in Korea are closed and the rest of the world is closing down, and what's going on with that. Some of that is very true. We do have schools in Korea that are closed at this point, and that is because the Dodea schools there are following the USFK guidance. And at this point, that's it. And so what they're doing with that is they have an e-learning presence for those schools that are closed, and they are providing instruction daily to boys and girls via Google, YouTube, Schoology for our older kids, and we've got ourselves a burden here. I hope he's not a bird of prey. So that's going on. But as an area, you know, we have changed some of our procedures. We canceled Far East events through March. So that's something we can count on, is that through March, there will be no air travel for any of our kids. The Korean boys and girls are not able to go back, or they're not able to travel at all. In Japan, they have halted their local play amongst the schools. And one of their reasons for that is because those kids are then on buses for sometimes as much as 12 hours as they're moving from Misawa down to the Kanto Plain for a sporting event. They end up in the Japanese rest areas, those kinds of things. And they said, you know, this just really isn't a great idea for now. We're going to postpone these games or put them off for some time. Here on Okinawa, we felt like we wanted to keep things as close to normal as we possibly could for our kids. We have canceled a number of large events, and we'll continue to look at those individually, case by case, for each of the schools, trying to limit access to our schools to folks that are ID card holders, that have base access, and that are intermingling into our communities daily anyway. For the athletic contest between Kubasaki and Kadena, the bus ride is no further than a daily commute for them. So I have not felt at this point that that was a danger. Again, we've worked with our military treatment facilities. Most of our sports at this time, or a lot of our sports at this time of year, are outdoors. They're not in quite as close a contact. I would feel a little different about wrestling than I do about soccer, perhaps. But we are continuing, again, to seek guidance from each of our, and it changes daily. At this point on Okinawa, we know of 3 confirmed cases of COVID-19. We've had 0 deaths. All 3 of those are down in Naha. So that's where we are with that. We're practicing good hygiene within our schools. That's the thing that we're sharing most with our kids, is wash your hands, cover your sneezes, and if you're sick, stay home. And that's honestly one of the big messages that I would give as a takeaway for this tonight is, while we know that it may just be a cold, or it may just be, you know, a little touch of the flu, when the kids come into school, they're sharing that with everybody else. And it's not that, but especially at this time, we're being extra vigilant with that. And if kids have fevers, it's amazing what kids will tell you. Yep, I don't have a fever now because my mom gave me medicine. And the nurses are the ones who are laughing at that, because they hear that most often at about noon, when that medication wears off and that fever goes back up. So we are asking for some support in that with, if kids are sick, please keep them at home. So next topic, and we'll just get there, is rezoning. And I'm going to tie rezoning and waivers together because it is a big issue across our district. And so I'll tell you, when I arrived on Okinawa in August, there was a binder full of waivers in my office, roughly 800. And so if you think of 800 students who are in schools other than the one they are zoned for, it makes it really hard to have accountability of, well, should these kids be here or should they not be here? In the past, what it seems to me and what it appears happened is oftentimes families went to the school they wanted to go to, registered at that school, and then filled out the paperwork that, oh, I'm here on a waiver, which is a little bit different than the way that it should work. When it should work that you register at the school that you're zoned for, and then if there's a reason that you need to go to another school, for whatever that may be, then you would apply for that. And if we have space available in that other school, then we can grant that waiver. Waivers are typically done on a 1-year interim. And so we go through with that. And I say that that's important for a couple of reasons. The very next thing that happened in August is, as we started to open school, we figured out that Kadena Middle School had been staffed for about 640 students, which is right at their optimal capacity. But they climbed past 640 pretty early. And they climbed to 675. And then they climbed to 700. And then they were at 730 by the time school started. Today, they're at about 695. So when we began to look at that process of, okay, where are all these kids coming from? What's happened with that? How did we get to that? And how did we miss the mark so much for that in August? The first thing we started to look at was waivers. Well, who's here on a waiver? Who can we send back to their home school and make some space here? Well, we had the registrars and the counselors go through each and every file, and the number that we came up with was less than 20 of those 730 students. That was the best information we had that day. I'm not a big believer that those numbers were actually accurate, because people had been able to come and register at whichever school they wanted to go to without that check and balance of where you're supposed to be in the system. So that was an issue. That was the first issue. So we offered at that point, hey, you know, we've got less students over at Ryukyu, and we looked at how we might be able to move some folks around and what we could do. And what we decided in August was that we really didn't have a lot of choice. School was opening. We needed to add some staff to Kadena Middle School and make that work, because it was too late to make that process change. So we did that, and we've done that to the point of every classroom, every period is full in Kadena Middle School. There's no opportunity for flex space or additional space or those kinds of things. We've got people sharing office space, all kinds of things happening there that, again, the school just wasn't designed with that capacity in mind. So at that point, we already had begun to talk with our leadership and our folks, and to address in these forums, we're going to have to look at some different zoning for that. And one of the things for me that in my role I have to look at is, what are your resources? Where do you have space? What are you needing to do? What are you looking at? Where can you move things? How can you make things work best? So when I think about middle schools, and we're going to talk mostly about middle schools tonight because that's where our biggest issue and concern is. Kadena Middle School, again, built for just over 600 as an optimal number. Lester Middle School, built for about 600 students, currently has 381. Ryukyu Middle School has capacity for somewhere around 900. It's a big number, isn't it? Big number for there. Currently has not quite 500. So when you start thinking about, well, who do we move around and why do we move around and what's that going to look like? Ryukyu had been slated for some swing space, which is why it had been kept low. to be able to move some other students in as we do some construction projects on our elementary schools. So that really kind of takes that off the table for us. We want to keep that number there because we need that space to be able to move into there. So then I talked with my transportation folks. I said, okay, so where, if we look at the underlying issue is that housing has moved away. Kinzer doesn't have very many people who are living on basic Kinzer. Kinzer people would normally be filling up Kubasaki and Leicester and so on. But due to the availability of housing and the affordability of housing, more of our families have moved north. And so a lot of folks are living from Tsunabe to Yomitan or Ona even. And so how far out do we go? So in talking with my transportation folks, because as you drive by the Foster vehicle compound there, you see a bunch of yellow buses and white buses. Those are all mine. But you can only move so many kids at a time. We already have the largest student transportation office in the world. We have more than 5,000 registered daily riders. We typically have daily ridership of about 3,500. So again, moving that many boys and girls back and forth because our population is so concentrated gets to be one of the deciding factors. So where we kind of came to with that, again, working with transportation, working with school capacities, those kinds of things, is Tsunabe. So that's this little green spot right here. If we look at the pink spot, this is all Ryukyu, a lot of this is on base. And if we look at the purplish color, that was already the Foster schools. This knob right here is where the Hamagawa Lodge is. And so if you drive down 58 and you see the Hamagawa Lodge, that's really what we're talking about right there. And right up here is the fuels yard, right there before you get to Kadena Marina. So that's the area that we're talking about. One of the reasons for that is it's very densely populated in that area. We have buses going already there, where here, buses stop and pick up 5 kids, 8 kids, 13 kids. Here, they stop and pick up a busload. So that's one of the things that made it appealing for that. It's contiguous with already the Foster zones of schools. Another thing that makes it appealing for why we would choose to rezone them. And honestly, that's where we came to that bit. And so in my infinite wisdom, and I know this has taken a long time, but I want to get my story out there. In my infinite wisdom, we sent out a newsletter in February that said, hey, we're going to need to rezone. But then we didn't follow up with anything. And that's on me. And then we did send another letter, and we addressed all that. But I can tell you that my ICE comment box, I have the record now for Pacific South. So thank you to those who contributed to that. I've had a number of parents who have called, many who have come to see me, and they've shared, we kind of understand the need for this. And my philosophy always is, I think if I ask any family, hey, should we try and equalize the size of schools for opportunities and for those things, I'd probably get the answer of, yeah, that's the right thing to do to better use the space to get all of those things done. The next step is usually, yeah, it's a great idea to rezone, but it'd be even better if you chose this family up here or this family over here. I get it. So anyway, the folks that have come to see me have been pretty passionate, and I appreciate their passion and their energy for that. And I've spoken with our leadership from all branches about, hey, this is really something we need to do. And we've gotten some support from that, but they've offered me some guidance. And as a lifelong learner and an educator, I listen. So what I want to say tonight is, in thinking about that, one of the things that came up is a word that kept coming up was grandfather. We know you need to move families, but grandfather us. Don't make us change schools. And initially I thought about that. I thought, I don't know that I can do that. But as I looked a little more, and again, thanks to the folks who brought it, I think we can. And here's how. So I think I pulled the DEROS numbers for those groups, and I can tell you that is probably, I'm almost as confident in those numbers as I was of the waiver numbers at Kadena Middle School. I'm not sure that they're exactly accurate because orders change. You know, we've extended, we've done this, we've done that. But if those numbers are accurate, about a third of the students who live in that area will be PCSing prior to the start of school next year. And several more would PCS before that happens, or before the end of the next school year. As a kid who went to 17 schools before I got out of high school, I know what it's like to be the new kid. I honestly do, and I can tell you that it's not the most comfortable situation there. So here's what I think I can do. I don't like the word grandfather, so I'm going to say exempt. For the Tsunabe folks, that I do have to rezone. I'm just saying that right up front. I have to move kids to get more kids into Lester and Kubasaki, and some out of Kadena Middle particularly, but also to equalize the playing field between Kubasaki and Kadena. That affects their extracurricular budgets, their expendable budgets, their staffing, their course offerings. All of those things are tied into the numbers of students who come to those schools. So I can offer for families who want to stay at the Kadena schools from Tsunabe, I'm going to call it an exemption, with the caveat that I can't provide transportation to Kadena. The buses are going to come in, they're going to pick up students and move them to the foster schools. For any student who moves into Tsunabe now, starting in May, there won't be any waivers or exemptions, but over a period of time, we will be able to transition those students as the PCS occurs to get the numbers we need here, to reduce the numbers at Kadena, and to hopefully be a little less impacting for our families. So I appreciate the families who brought that to me. And they were going to send me some other suggestions, and I didn't get those. But I did take that one to heart, and I told them I'd consider the things that they said to me. So that's kind of where we are with the rezoning piece. So then when we get to the waivers, I still have 800 kids on waivers. Again, you can teach old folks new tricks. I can't move 800 kids between schools, and I know that. I do need to be more consistent and focused as we grant new waivers to those. And waivers are year by year, and families sign for those. But I also know that families plan their lives based off of how they get kids to school and how that works and what works for them. And so we're going to, again, everybody would have to reapply for the waivers that they have. That's no different than any other year. For new waivers particularly, we're going to be much more, they will have a much higher level of scrutiny. Let's put it that way. I have to get kids back into the schools where they're zoned for so that I can manage staffing, facilities, budgets, course offerings, all of those things that happen. But I don't have to impact all of today's kids with that. So we will look as we do re-registration, and that will start in March. Again, for those who are here, Each year we have to re-verify which kids are eligible to come to our school. That is just a DODEA thing because orders change, folks retire, maybe they're working for a different contractor, whoever that is. So how students are eligible for school changes each year. That's why we ask you to re-register. We've typically done that in April or started in April. This year we're going to start about the middle of March so we can get that out. For each student, you got to go to that home school where you're zoned. You're going to need to bring, I believe it's 3 things: set of orders that shows the dependent is there, a letter of employment if you're a civilian like me, and a copy of your lease or your housing assignment letter that says this is where I live. Take that to there. For these that are exempt, that can make that transportation move, we're going to go ahead and approve those right away. As soon as we get them, we're going to go ahead and do that. That does a couple of things for me. It has them registered in the school where they're zoned for, so it gives me a good count of, I'm really, if the communities are full, I've got the right number of students here and I have this going on. But I'm exempting this group of kids and I can move that. That's a computer piece that our registrars are able to do. But that allows me that flexibility. So those are the things. We're going to be starting that again in March. The sooner people register, the sooner I can begin those other waiver approvals. When I have, we've got 7,200-ish boys and girls that come to school on Okinawa. When I only have 4,000 registered, it's hard for me to say that I'm going to have room in another school. I need to have the majority of folks registered before I can start to do that. So, what else is on my list, Mr. Johnson? Dress code. All right. You've probably heard over the course of the year, we've had some issues, concerns with dress codes. We had a complaint early in the year about our dress code being gender discriminatory towards females. And so we did looked at it and we found that we had 13 different dress codes in the 13 different schools. We've had a working group going on for the last 3 or 4 months. So we've had an interim dress code in, which looks a whole lot like this. And there are a bunch of words that go along with it, but I particularly like the graphic. One, because you don't know boy or girl. Doesn't make any difference. We're not going to talk about what those should be. But the dress code working group that's there, they've come up with some words, a graphic that's going to look very similar to this. It's being run through our legal departments right now to make sure we have the right words on it so I don't end up in prison or back. But what it boils down to is be covered from here to here. Don't show anything in the middle. If you're a boy or a girl, we're not going down that road. From here to here needs to be covered. But you can expect to see the same dress code in all 13 of our schools for next year. So what your student who goes to the middle school wears would be available and appropriate at the high school or at the elementary school. And that was one of the bigger concerns we heard early. So I just wanted to bring that up. That is still on there. We are still looking at it. And the last topic for me, I hope, is construction. And so I know a couple of our schools are going to talk about that. And the way that it's mentioned on the agenda and it goes back to the rezoning piece. One of the reasons we didn't include elementary schools in that rezoning piece to send those students there is because we have new construction going on at our schools. Killen Elementary is in the midst of being rebuilt. There's a new Bob Hope School that's being built just down the road there. And when those are finished, which won't be next year, it'll be for school year 21-22, that they will open. They'll open in August of 21-22, assuming that the construction stays on track. We're probably going to have to look at some shifts in that as well. And I see a bunch of folks looking at me going, what? Here's the thing. The new Bob Hope, back in the day when this was all planned, Sterling was supposed to be rebuilt as well, and we were going to have 3 elementary schools on Kadena that had capacity of about 850 apiece. So we've built Kadena Elementary, the new Kadena Elementary. It's open, it's running, it's got that going. The new Bob Hope will open down here. It's going to be about 850 students. Sterling Heights has not changed at this point, though it was in the original construction phase as well. And the capacity here is about 500. You can go a little bit over that, not a whole lot. The current Bob Hope and Amelia Earhart has well over 1,200 students between the two. So they're not all going to be able to move into the new building. Again, when this plan started several years ago, it was they'll all 3 be done about the same time. We'll have swing space. We won't be doing that. We're going to be building the Bechtel School, on and on and on. Construction things change, particularly on an island that's covered in unexploded ordnance. So that put Killen a year and a half behind in that construction process, as they had to go through and do some work for that. So it's still a work in progress for what that's going to look like. But it's important for folks to know, as we get to this time next year and we're planning for school year 21-22, we're going to have some more discussions of which schools are we going to go to. And again, a lot of that is dependent on when those facilities are truly going to be ready and able. I've got lots of ideas here. I got lots of facilities planning people who are telling me they're going to be ready. I got lots of logistics folks that says this is how to make it work. None of them want to come and stand in front of you and tell that story. So that's where we are for the night. That's what I've got with that. Colonel Gleason?
Hey, the parliamentarians in the room are going to get me for this one, but we forgot to accept last meeting's minutes. Is there someone who would motion to accept the minutes? Anyone? Or we have a motion to accept the minutes. Do we have a second? We have a second, and so the minutes are accepted. Those are available if for the folks who aren't normally attending this meeting. If you'd like to receive them, contact either your school or your school liaison officer, and those can be put out. But usually, rather than reading them, we just accept them here, having read them ahead of time. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go to the school reports portion, and I think we have a second microphone that's out there. Do we? Maybe? There it is, ready to go. And so since the mic is on that side and we go a lot faster when we don't do it alphabetically, I'm going to ask they pass that to Kadena Middle School, and we're just going to go across the tables. The one thing I would say, and I think principals and school advisory committee representatives have been advised ahead of time, obviously with the kind of the public desire to make comments, we're looking to keep our internal comments as short as possible. Me too, so I'll stop. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Minda Massey-Vukovic. I'm the principal at Kadena Middle School. I have with me Mr. Vandermaiden. He's our Japanese teacher, my assistant principal, Ms. Cooper, my administrator officer, Mr. Lindenmuth, and over here on the camera is Mr. Feynman, our video production teacher. We have a lot going on. One of the things I want to highlight is Mr. Feynman actually has I believe she's, why don't you come tell us about it? He's very excited about this.
How's everybody doing? Good? Okay. So basically at Kadena Middle School, we have a state-of-the-art video productions program. And we now have a very new operational studio. And in addition, we have students who have an internship at the Kadena Force Support Squadron television channel. So we have 24 students who have that internship. It happens to be the only school on Okinawa that has an internship for a video productions program. And we just had today an Emmy Award-winning television producer who used to work for the Discovery Channel come and talk to the students about CTE and how to further your career in video productions. So that's what's happening with Kadena Middle School.
We are in the process of beginning our spring concert series. We have a large band and music program. So if you check out our webpage, you'll see when those concerts are going to happen. Thank you.
Hello, Ronaldo Takero, Zuccorin Elementary School. I would like to introduce our SAC members, Miss Swan, Miss Stiles, and Miss Oliver, our parent representative. The other half of the administrative team, Mr. Jones. This is Sousathon. This is Sousabration Week at Zuccorin Elementary School. We don't use the other term, Read Across America. We wanted our own term. Our kids are engaged academically and in a lot of great activities. But we do have a great accommodating activity to celebrate Dr. Seuss Week on Friday. Thank you very much.
Yes, I am standing up. I am Lucille Sutherland. I'm the principal down at Kinzer Elementary. Hey! Kinzer is an exciting place to be. We may be small, but we're powerful. We are celebrating Read Across America this week. We will be having a parade on Friday through the towers. We have some skits and everything that teachers are going to be involved in. Our base commander is going to be our grand marshal at the parade. Some of the events that we have coming up is our PTO is very active. As part of Dr. Seuss Week, every student at Kinzer will be getting a book from the PTO. We also have monthly family Friday nights out for parents where the PTO will take care of the kids so the parents can go out. We have March Madness, which is a night of games for families. We also have a fit-a-thon coming up in April, and also our field day in April also. With me tonight, I have Mrs. Phillips, who is our SAC president, and also our PTO president. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Federico. I'm the principal at Amelia Earhart. I first want to apologize. We brought our Firebird mascot, and it got loose. So if it ever comes down, someone grab it and return to AEIS. Tonight, I have our assistant principal, Ms. Mayer, our parent rep, Mr. Seguenza, our school secretary, Mrs. Johnson, our PTO president, Mr. Feely, and our teacher rep, Coach McNeese. Real quick, I always like to talk about the partnerships we have. We're going to finalize our partnership with 718 FSS on April 13th as our month of military child celebration. It's going to be a great event. The Navy Seabees came out a few weeks ago to engage our students in engineering projects. A lot of fun promoting those fields. And our third grade classrooms will be meeting with a NASA engineer next week. Very exciting. We're really looking forward to that. And everything else we have on your table, all of our list of events and our websites. Please take a look and come out and hang out. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Lori Vallone. I'm the principal at Bob Hope Primary School. We are celebrating Read Across America Week and Dr. Seuss with lots of events. Some of our events we've had to postpone because of the number of students and people in our small school would be a little bit more crowded than this even. So, but we are actively having fun and reading a lot. And the middle school students came over today and read to our students, and that was fun. They videotaped them. And we're awaiting our new assistant principal. She's supposed to be here March 30th if things don't slow her down. So we're really looking forward to that.
Do you want to do that? All right. I'm Dave Burkett. I'm the principal at Kadena Elementary School. So with me today, I have Miss Barker, who's a SAC member, Miss Beard Archie, who's a SAC member, Tech Sergeant John Emery, who's a parent, Mr. Horn, our FRS ET, Dr. Hayes, my AP, Miss Emery, our OAA, who works in the office. And I'm going to pass it to my AP.
Good evening, everyone. Just want to highlight a few things that are happening at Kadena Elementary School. We're in the middle as well of celebrating Dr. Seuss with Read Across Okinawa. Yesterday, we hosted a very successful, our very first vocabulary parade. That was a hit. Friday, we'll be culminating our Seuss celebration with a fun run. So far, we've, through our fundraiser, we've collected over $15,000. And in our professional world, we are hosting 2 classes currently, sponsored by the SIL with Kathy Smith and Stacy Lamoureux on differentiation as well as teaching and learning, 21st century teaching and learning. And finally, last week, we were officially adopted by the 733rd AMS. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Kim Brown from Lester Middle School, which used to be the smallest middle school on the island. We have a lot going on at Lester. We're focused on learning. We've just finished our interim assessments in math and ELA. We have Makerspace, which is a new program going on during seminar where kids go and make things during the seminar time if they are all caught up on their academics. Our counselors have been super busy with orientations and course selections. We have a giant community garden project-based learning project going on, and there's going to be an opening ceremony for that on May 15th, and we're working with lots of different groups in the community to beautify our campus. And last but not least, our Sip and See is on the 18th of March. It will cover Choices 360, and I'm joined this evening by our president, Ms. Algrim, our principal, Ms. Jones, and our new AP, we're so glad she's here, Ms. Williams.
Good evening. I'm William Bragg, the assistant principal at Kadena High School. I have with me Ms. Phillips, the other assistant principal, Dr. Rice, our SAC chair, Ms. Alcazar, our counselor, Ms. Casella, our ET, 2 parents, Mrs. Beard and Mrs. Ashford. Kadena High School, a few things that we had going on. We had Operation Snowball and a bonfire which celebrated mental health. That was very good for our students, a lot of participation in that. We also had our drama department do the play Legally Blonde. It was a real success. We finished up our interim assessments and we started our spring sports. This is tryout week, so if your students are trying out for our spring sports, be patient with them. They're getting home a little bit late in the evenings. We'll be getting ready also with the middle schools transitioning up. We're getting ready to do their course selection sheets in the coming weeks. So that's pretty much it what we have going on at Kadena High School at this time.
Thank you. All right, good evening, James Strait, Kubasaki High School. I have my A team with me tonight. So if you have further questions, talk to them. All right, so the first thing I got, my new AP is scheduled to arrive in April. So I'm excited for if anything doesn't change with the flights. We also want to congratulate our wrestling team for winning the 4 East Championship before they shut down Korea. This past weekend, we had the USA prom dress giveaway. They brought them in about 300 dresses. I think we had a little over 180 young ladies that was able to get a free dress from the USO. We also had the PTSO vendor fair last week as well. We have our prom that is scheduled on paper for April 18th at Camp Butler. And the students are getting ready for the standardized testing. They've been doing a lot of interim testing, so we're excited to get them going at the end of March for the standardized testing and also our AP exam testing. So thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. Woo, what a crowd. I'm Miss Finney, the assistant principal at Ryukyu Middle School. And with me tonight, my table grew too. This is awesome. Awesome. We have our PTO president. I called her Miss P. And we have our SAC secretary, Miss Christensen. We have our teacher, Miss Snowden. We also have a SAC parent, Dr. Hickox. We have our FRS, Miss Kimmel, and our teacher, Miss Brent, here tonight. Just to highlight some cool things that were happening at Ryukyu. Last week, we had a wonderful jazz and rock, School of Rock concert. It was excellent. The parents wanted more. And also, we had our biggest number at our SAC on last week as well, with a number of 16 in attendance. And we were excited about that. And to highlight, out of, I think Mr. Journey said 72,000 students here in Okinawa. 7,200? Okay, yeah, 72,000. That's like a whole nother country, right? Okay. That's my nerves, everybody. I'm a little bit nervous. Okay, so out of those 7,200 students, there is one special student from Ryukyu Middle School who has the opportunity to represent Dodia in the GOB, and that is none other than Sydney Ellis, and we're so excited about that. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'm Gordon Lincook. I'm the principal at Bechtel Elementary School, and we have Miss Anderson, our teacher representative, Miss Nichols, our SAC rep, and Miss Brozovic, our assistant principal. A couple things that are going on at Bechtel right now. We're doing Read Across America. We had some guest speakers from the district. We had military members and parents, and it was great today. We had 5 students in the Okinawa Egg Science Expo. That was a fun event with the community. And also our SAC and kindergarten teachers made 300 treat bags for the homeless shelter, celebrating 100 days of school. And then the big news is we're going to be serving breakfast next year at Bechtel. And our motto is, come out to Bechtel, it's worth the drive. All right?
And I'm Dr. Sears. I'm the principal at Sterling Heights. Thank you for coming to our school tonight. With me, I have my information specialist, Dr. Westbrook, who's one of our SAC members. Also our nurse, Nurse Hudson, and one of my reading specialists, Miss Latham. She's also a SAC member. One of my 3rd grade teachers, Miss Holmes, my PE teacher, Mr. Blythe. Somewhere back there is my AO, Mr. Key, and my ESL teacher, Mr. Hunt, is somewhere as well. And Mr. Davis is running our AV for tonight. We have wonderful things going on at our school, but I want to tell you one thing that was great. 1,300 students and teachers got together at a kindness rally at the youth sport fields together with Kadena Elementary School, and we all talked about ways that we could be kind every day. In addition to that, we have Read Across America going on at our school, camping out with a good book. We also are thankful to all that signed up for our upcoming career day. Unfortunately, we postponed that to the end of May. We also have interim testing going on, and we're thankful to all the people that helped out with our dental presentations. We have a parent university coming up with our focus group, talking about dealing with conflict. We do have some playground issues that we're dealing with right now, but we've worked together with the Air Force and the DSO to get those hopefully better so that we have better equipment for our kids to play on. And we have upcoming field day and poem in your pocket. And we just have wonderful things on. Check us out on our Facebook page. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kendra White from EC Killen, and with me tonight I have my SAC president, Mrs. Hartz, and my PTO president and also my secretary, Mrs. Bodani. So on your table is a flyer, but just want to highlight we've had some great community partnerships lately with Entomology Group and 3rd Dental Battalion, and we've also we've partnered with Focus to do some parent empowerment. And our PTO is always behind the scenes on many things that we do with our Read Across America, that we'll be doing tie-dye shirts to celebrate diversity with our theme, and also providing snacks and prizes for our parent university. So they're always behind everything we do. And that's what's going on at Killen.
And I think with that, we've heard from all of the schools, unless I miscounted. But with that, we're going to go to the 3 service school liaison officers. And they're at the very back table. I was trying to say it before you walked up here with the mic. Thank you very much, though. And so we'll start with our U.S. Marine Corps representative, Ms. Mizell.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Diana Mizell, sir. I have nothing to pass.
Thank you, sir. My name is Christine McNeese. I'm the Army School Liaison Officer. I don't have anything new to report today.
Good evening. My name is Chris Lamb, and I'm the Air Force School Liaison. That's right. I just wanted to let you guys know about the Trevor Romaine Foundation. They were going to come and do a With You All the Way tour for our kids here, our elementary school kids. But unfortunately, the CEO, Mr. Woody, his wife has been diagnosed with cancer. So they have taken a little break, but they will be back, they say, maybe next year. But if you're praying family, pray for that family. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our school liaison officers. And since we do have a lot of folks in the room, if you're trying to get support, or you need to have command advocacy on behalf of military dependents, the school liaison officers are absolutely the right route to get to your command teams. They do a great job. So just kind of round of applause for them, even though they didn't have a lot of comments tonight. Not on the agenda, but we do have one item of old business I just wanted to check on. Last time we were together, Kinzer Elementary had a body they're doing about standardized testing. Is there any report back with regard to standardized testing? Okay, so I'll pass it to you for old business.
Hello, everyone. After much extensive research on all the assessments, every single one, down all of them, really, I feel like, let's see, I brought a proposal and everything. Can the amount of standardized interim assessments be reduced? We propose that there are less assessments on top of testing students' subjects. They are given in interim assessments that do not go towards their grade. We feel our students are being over-tested. Can parents get the results of all assessments given? Only assessments we have received, at least in elementary, have been the end of the year summative assessment, which hasn't given much data, just kind of here's where your child is reading, here's where they are in math. Let's see. Can DODEA start using an adaptable assessment? After much research on the PARC or CCRS, DODEA uses as a result of interim uses the results of interim and summative assessments do not give much data for teachers to go off of, and most of all are not adaptable. Example, if students get the question wrong, the next question is a little easier, and vice versa. If a student gets a question right, the next question is harder. The NWEA measure of academic progress has had great success in 24 states as well as internationally. They are a Common Core assessment. The map uses adaptable assessments and is able to gauge where each student is instead of just one basic question across the board. Let's see. As for PARC, when it started, there were 22 users, including DODEA, State's Bureau of Indian Education in 2010. As of 2019, they are down to 4 users, being DODEA, Bureau of Indian Education, Massachusetts using a hybrid, grades 3 to 8, and Louisiana using a hybrid, grades 3 to 10. Another thing is, can parents have more information about each assessment? We propose that DODEA make an informational sheet describing each assessment in detail and what the results will benefit, how it will benefit our children for each student. On top of the information sheet, I want to propose that their parents receive an opt-out form. And I'm saying this as in, after all the research I did on each assessment, there are assessments that are phenomenal and help gauge where each of our children are. The opt-out form for me would be the interim assessments personally, but for DODEA to, along with the information sheet, do the opt-out form to either beginning of school year or by semester, depending on what DODEA the district prefers. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, and so what we're looking for there is essentially looking for a motion to send that forward to the Area Advisory Council, and anyone would second it, and then we'll vote on that. So is there a motion to send that forward to the Area Advisory Council? We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a second. And so when we go to the voting portion, I'm sitting down. We might stand up to count it, but I just want to clarify because we got a lot of new folks in the room. Each school gets 2 votes. It's a representative body here. So please, if you're not one of those 2 votes in the room, please don't pop your hands up. It'll cause us to have to do a roll call vote and we'll be here a lot longer. So with that, all in favor, please put a hand up. And hold on one second, just to make sure we know what we're in favor of. Is in favor of sending the letter that was just highlighted forward to the Area Advisory Council for consideration of making changes, proposed changes to the assessments in DODEA Pacific. DODEA, would it be across DODEA? So it would end up being across DODEA. Are there questions or votes? Okay, so all in favor? Get your hand up in the back. You're throwing me off. We're going to be here longer. Okay, so 1, 2, 7, 8, 9. I'm counting 14. Got a hand that's shorter here. Yep. So 14 votes. I didn't mean anything by that. All right. All opposed? Oh, okay. So that makes, I'm sorry, because you weren't with your table. I thought maybe we had people. Oh, you're okay. Sorry. So that makes 15 in favor. And so all opposed? We have 2 opposed. So motion carries, motion pass. And we will forward that. We'll need a copy so we can put that together and forward it up to the area council, and then they will do a similar thing from there. Okay, I think that was it for old business, and I apologize for that not being on the agenda ahead of time. As far as new business goes, we have first thing on the new business, the next meeting, not closing yet, but the next meeting is at 17:30 on May the 6th at Kadena High School. I have new business from Kinzer Elementary School, a concern about enrollments and the assessment schedule, both interim and summative assessments. So is that new business the same as what you just read, or is that, do you have additional? Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent. Thank you. And Bob Hope Primary School has a bit of new business regarding length of recess. So Bob Hope.
I know. My name is Sarah Buckner. I have 2 children at Bob Hope, and I've been on the SAC for the past 3 years. I did submit my proposal to Mr. Journey. I didn't make copies. Sorry. Basically, what I would like to propose is to have the discussion to be able to allow teachers to make educationally founded and age-appropriate decisions for my child and my children and your children to be able to have more recess time, more brain breaks, activities that are not always standard driven. So they're able to have a Valentine's Day snack without it having to be measured for area. Or for them to have a fun Friday. Or for them to be able to go outside and not have to count things while they're out burning energy. If you have small children, they need that time to run. I have 2 boys, maybe mine are different than the rest. I don't think so. I could be wrong. As of right now in kindergarten, there's 25 minutes of recess. When Dodeo went from half-day kindergarten to full-day kindergarten, it was recommended as part of the proposal to have 2 kindergarten recesses per day. We're down to 25 minutes, and that usually includes the going out time and the coming in time. And if you're hurting 5-year-olds, probably take some time. For the other elementary groups, it also includes lineup time, walking in time. It's quite a distance at Bob Hope, just to be able to have that additional time that the teachers don't have necessarily scheduled in, just that they are allowed to make the decision to do. This is a research-based across the board. Many different resources were found. I did have in my proposal. Sorry, I didn't bring it. Our children are graded on being whole. They're on the whole child. In kindergarten, they're graded on following directions. They're graded on all the things that make citizenship happen. But we only teach based on standards. We need time to have kids be able to play and not necessarily be based on standard 2.3, whatever. We need time for our kids to be able to be working in groups with kids that are not driven by adults. This is not just a Bob Hope problem. This is not something that we can fix at Bob Hope. I do think that we need to be able to allow the teachers to make age-appropriate choices for our children. Sometimes our kids need to go outside. Sometimes our kids need to have a fun Friday where they have done everything they need During the week, their homework's been on time and neat. It's their incentive. Why can we not allow that to be happening in Dodea again? Let me turn my page, sorry. That's just my main concern. I don't understand why we are striving 5-year-olds to be 8-year-olds. We need to look at them at age appropriateness and allow the teachers to make those choices that they went to college for. Some who have an awful lot of student loan debt to show for that, they know what they're doing. And I would not leave my children with people I didn't trust to do the right thing by them. And I would hope that we as a body would give them that opportunity to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Apparently you have some support. Before I turn it for open discussion on that topic, I just want to point out I saw some scouting uniforms in the back, and talking about youth leading youth, you're likely to be recruited tonight. But otherwise, I'll turn it over for open discussion. Does anyone have a comment in support or a dissenting voice? All right, I have a hand up in the back. I can't see the school name, so let's go ahead. The mic's coming your way.
Thank you. We're from EC Killen. I actually think that my son's current teacher is able to give him great breaks, but there's nothing standardized to allow the time for that. And it's not consistent with every teacher. So I think putting a policy in place, especially for the children who are struggling to stay on task or struggling to pay attention to a 45-minute writing assignment, those extra brain breaks are priceless. And I think it's something we as a community should strive for in our schools.
Okay, do I have any other comments or have a comment in the back? Come on forward, there's a microphone or...
I just want to like second or third that motion. I'm a sub in the middle schools. I see how long even those kids sit in middle school, just completely sit still. Anybody who has middle school boys knows that that's very difficult, even for some of the girls. I've had kids in charter schools. I've homeschooled kids. I've had them in international private schools in Tokyo, public schools, Dodea schools. This is the place that they've sat the most in school, especially in elementary. And it's the place I've actually seen the least growth in my children. The place where they got the most free time is where I saw the most growth. And I've heard a lot of talk about like Bechtel renovating it to turn it into a 21st century school. We've got Zuccotti and we've got Kadena as 21st century schools, but we're not really giving them 21st century learning when we require them just to sit still for hours on end. There's no like collaborative thinking, there's no creative problem solving. And so I just really second what she's saying. I've seen, it sounds counterintuitive, like, oh, we can't give them free time because what about their education? But they actually grow more when they're given more creativity and more time to explore and have that free time. So thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to pass it to our superintendent for some comments, and then we'll determine if there's a motion to vote on or if we're just kind of voicing a concern. So, Chief, sir.
Gee, thanks. It's been a great night. So I would second or third or 14th any of the comments that were made there on a number of different levels. You know, my official role says that we have to be accountable for our time and we need to strive towards standards and ensure that our students are engaged in making appropriate academic progress. That's what my job says that I do. I will tell you that as a guy, just a regular guy, Jim, I was principal at Bob Hope, and I was principal at Ikego Primary School, which was a pre-K3 school in mainland Japan, and also at Solars Elementary there. So I'm an elementary guy. That's what I did. And for the folks who, and there are several people in here who have worked with me over the years, The things that I would tell you about that are you need to design lessons that are engaging for kids. As professionals, you need to plan the lessons that keep your kids moving, and you need to know your kids. Probably the most important thing that we can do. Wait, this is on Facebook, right? I'll get fired. The most important thing we can do, and this truly is the mantra that I've been spouting for 35 years, it's the relationships that we build with boys and girls and their families that are going to make the most difference in the success of our students. In building those relationships, you learn what it is that kids need and how to best get them to get to that point. So at this point in our educational careers, we do have standards for the amounts of instruction that is supposed to take place in each subject area. And so, we're supposed to have 120 minutes a day of ELA kinds of activities. We're supposed to have 90 minutes of math in the primary grades activities. We're supposed to have social studies and science activities. You notice there's a consistent word in each of those activities. And for little kids, they absolutely cannot sit still all day and be expected to do that. I believe that there is an opportunity for teachers to have some flexibility in how they do that and how they plan their lessons. And are they able to make those interactive, and are they able to make them group activities with some group think and some group collaboration? So again, there's the expectation that we have focused time and that we're working on the standards. How we present that to our students is limited mostly by our, let me say that differently. It is not limited by our teachers' creativity, but sometimes it appears to be limiting, that we don't move and we don't do those things. I would hope for all of our administrators in the room that you are encouraging people to explore outdoor kinds of activities, that you're encouraging people to look at the nature and the things around them and to play with their friends. Kids learn through play. And I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you very much. So in the end, I would ask I guess our team who brought the motion in the first place, is there a particular motion you want us to vote on tonight? Is there something, kind of a proposal, we want to have this, or is it a matter of you want to make sure that that voice was out there as explaining that the key verb is activities? That's a noun.
Give the teacher freedom to make that choice. At Bob, we're lucky, we're on a 5-day rotation for PE. Oh, microphone. I tend to lose my thought with the microphone. We're on a 5-day rotation for PE. We're lucky. My kid gets PE once every 5 days. That is craziness. Great PE teacher, gets him active. My 5-year-old came home very excited to talk all about all the things I didn't understand. The problem is that we really need it not to be so specific on what standard they're learning at that time. If my kid is being taught as a whole child, why does it have to be only that science standard at that moment in time? I think I really, as a parent, need to hear that my teacher, my child's teacher, has the flexibility to say, oh my goodness, it's Friday and these kids have lost their minds. They cannot focus on math for another 5 minutes. More or less, let's say a non-5-year-old reader who has to have 120 minutes of ELA time. If I was a non-anything, 2 hours of that instruction, even broken up over the day, little bits of time, I think would be overwhelming. We're trying to make our kids be lovers of education. And I think in some ways, when my kid comes home and doesn't want to go back to school, not because his teacher's not spectacular, but because he's been worn down and he's exhausted and he's been thinking all day long, I think we need to let 5 and 8-year-olds be 5 and 8-year-olds. I think that's my concern, is that we need to make sure our teachers have the freedom to make those choices that they can make best at that moment on behalf of my child. So I don't really know what I want to do next. Told you I have a microphone, I kind of lose what I want to say next. But while I really appreciate it, Mr. Journey, I think that's a really good start. But I only have 3 more months of my kid as a 5-year-old. I need him to really enjoy kindergarten as a 5-year-old. His teacher is spectacular. I have nothing but wonderful things to say about their teachers. They love them more than I do some days, 8 hours at a stretch. But I want them to be able to make the right choices. And if they need to go outside to run for 5 minutes, like little boys do and little girls do and the creatures that they are, they need to be able to have that freedom to do so. So I don't know what I want.
We got a hand up from Kadena Elementary.
Sorry.
Maybe we can narrow it down.
Hi, good afternoon. My name's Mecca Emery, and I have 5 children. 4 of them are in Dodia schools here on Kadena Air Base. And I want to talk about the elementary school level, although I'm pleased with the middle school as well as the high school. I enjoy the 21st century concept. Those children are not sitting. I will admit as a parent, I was kind of nervous at first, but I will speak about my youngest because he started kindergarten, 1st grade, he's now in 2nd grade. And this is a student who was encouraged to self-advocate, and that came from his teachers from kindergarten. He did that throughout 1st grade, and he's doing it now in 2nd grade, and we're talking about an 8-year-old. So I have a 20-year-old who's also in college. And so I've gone through the standard in the classroom, 1 teacher, and that's it. And I'm not knocking that and saying that it's not okay. And I'm not saying that it didn't work for my 20-year-old, but I will say the 21st century concept is working for my other 4 children, as well as my 8-year-old. The things that my 8-year-old is doing and saying is different from what my 20-year-old did and said at 8. My son, he explained how you have to go through the different centers. They have the option, if he wants to stand, he's able to stand. If he wants to sit on the floor, he's able to sit on the floor. If he wants to sit in a wobbly chair, if he wants to sit at a desk. So he has multiple options, and every student who is in that area also has that same option. They don't have to sit in the same chair every day. They have a new choice every single day. I work in the front office. I receive several emails from teachers saying, Ms. Emery, I'm taking my students outside. We're going to plant in the garden. We're going to walk around and we're going to do this. So I see a lot of different things happening throughout the day, to include our PE teachers who doesn't just stay in their classrooms. They also say, here's my cell phone number. Call me if you need me. I'm taking the kids for a walk. We're doing something different. So I'm not sure what's happening at other schools other than the schools that my children attend, but I will say that I'm very pleased with what I'm seeing, and my children are excelling. I have a student at Kadena Middle School, which I'm also very pleased with what's happening over there, as well as 2 students at Kadena High School. We are very involved parents. We're very excited what's happening. And I want to give our teachers credit, not because I'm an employee of Dodia, but because I'm a parent, and I'm very happy with what I'm seeing. So the other concerns, I don't want to say they're not valid, but I do want to flip that coin because there's always 2 sides. So my side is I'm very pleased, I'm very happy, I'm excited with what I see. And I just hope that we can continue to move forward. And since it's working for us, maybe we could help those that it's not working for, so we could all get on the same page.
Okay, so as a principal at Bob Hope, I have to stand up for my teachers. We are a primary school, and we have primary activities all day long, inside and outside the school. However, we do not have a second recess, which I think is what the parents are asking for, is us, or a time when teachers could take them out for a second recess or take them out. So they do have to be, we do have a schedule and they do have standards they have to meet. But we also have flexible seating. We have a 21st century model. The children are moving all day long from teacher to teacher, and within their classrooms, in centers, they're working together, they're talking. Nobody sits for 120 minutes. Nobody in my school, not even me. We are moving all day long. So I understand what you're asking for. And I'm constrained by requirements, minutes for each subject matter that have to be met in order to meet the standards. But my teachers do plan activities and have our students moving. They're very primary focused with the students because we do have primary age children.
So, and then I'm going to let Colonel Gleason move on. So as a comment on that, what I would say is I believe teachers should have that flexibility that, you know what, if it's Friday afternoon, and not that we're doing that every day, but that, hey, you know what, they've lost what was the term you used, ma'am, that they've lost their mind and they can't concentrate on math for 5 more minutes? If that was the phrase, I believe that our teachers should and do have the flexibility to say, you know what, we're going to do something different for a minute. We're going to go for a hike. We're going to go out and have a race across the parking lot down to the, whatever that may be. We're not going to schedule in, we got some free time just to hang out. But I think that our teachers do have to have some flexibility in there for that. And again, sparingly, but based on the needs of our kids.
Thank you. So great discussion in the new business. And I think at this point, there's a lot of folks who are eager for the open forum portion. So like I said at the beginning of the meeting, we're first going to seek topics in the open forum category from the school advisory committees and or folks who have been designated to represent them. I'm going to turn it over and kind of, it's going to be the honor code. If you're representing a group of people, I know there are a couple of community leaders who are running some petitions. The petition may have been answered already tonight. Then, like I said, youth, and then adults as individual comments. So school advisory committees, is there anything that you want to bring up in the open forum? Kadena High School? The internet needs you to have a microphone. They can't hear you.
All right, help me out here.
2 million people listening. Don't get nervous.
No worries. It's just the back of my head right now, so it's so fine. First, Mr. Journey, Mr. Johnson, all of you that sat in the meetings with us and have heard our pleas and our reasons and our heart stories and all this other stuff and our common sense conversations, thank you for your time. I think on behalf of the Tsunabe community, we are excited and pleased that our children get to stay in the schools that we moved to. We are excited that you listened and you took it to heart and you guys made the right choice. So thank you, really, thank you so much. So, all right, Tsunabe, I've got a couple of questions that have come in. I want to try to get this out for you so that we can just, I know, it's just 3. So I got 3 right now. Right now. Okay, all right, to confirm, the exemption is permanent for the length of assignment on Okinawa? Yes. He said yes. 2, applies to the whole family regardless of current grade or school. So like if we've got a 4th grader who's at Kadena Elementary, they're going to go to Kadena Middle, and if you extend, then they will go to Kadena High. What? No, I'm just, yes. And we would just, I know that this will come down because I know, this isn't a yes question. No, this one's easy. We are just asking, and I know that this is going to come down, but just want to make sure that this is established with a clear policy that, like, I don't know if we have like a golden ticket that walks in and says, like we've been approved for this type, like thank you type thing, so that when we go to the schools and God forbid you leave while any of us are still here, that there's still consistency with this policy. Yes, Mr. Johnson said yes, I saw it. Yeah. I don't believe that. Okay, now it sucks you in. Okay. But let's just say we've got, right now, if I've got a fourth grader and we're here for 2 more years, then my fourth grader will go 6th grade to Kadena Middle because
If
the
that's-
family unit stays together.
Family unit will stay together for that.
Okay, excellent. So are there any other school advisory committees that have open forum business? Not seeing anything from the front table. So then the next thing I would say is of the folks who came tonight, thank you, by the way, for the big turnout. I was actually feeling like my fan club was too small. Oh, we have one from Kubasaki. Go ahead.
So you bring up a good point, and the question, let me stand. So currently, Kadena High School has about 840 some students or something to that effect, and Kubasaki has about 550. In the grand scheme of things, it would be very nice if you add those together. That comes out to about 1,400. If we had 2 high schools that were 700. That'd be awesome. That'd make me the happiest guy on the island tonight. That being said, this proposal to move this little group of people wouldn't do that. It won't do that anyway. Well, and the reason that it won't do it is because, and so even when these families, as new families come in and they start in Kubasaki, even if everybody in Tsunabe moved out and we didn't have anybody that was exempted to stay at Kadena, there aren't enough high school students in this little section to make that 700 at Kubasaki. The next part of that is the housing pieces for that. So Kinzer, they tell me, is reopening housing now, and those are students who will come. And we have towers on Foster that are currently empty, and as those fill, that should move part of that. This is a first piece. We may have to look at some other things down the road, and and lesson learned, it probably needs to be incremental. I will tell you that it will not be 700 and 700 the 15th of August next year when we start. I know that to start with. And that's because that would mean I have to move families from here and here to there. And that bus ride gets to be too long.
So when's your objective? What date do you want to do that by, or what year?
I think that realistically, we're looking at probably maybe a 3-year trend by the time we get back to that. What we've seen happen when I was here the first time, and I've talked about that, Kubasaki was well over 900 students and Kadena was at about 7. What's happened as that housing has gone away, those families have moved out into town and they've moved this way. We don't see as much housing on this side of the island, that privatized housing that's out there. It's just not there that's affordable for our families. And so again, based off of where we've got folks, I can't pick up schools and move them. We're having to figure out how we get families in there.
Okay, any other comments from school advisory committees? Okay, this time I'm still not seeing any hands. So with that, as as I said, with the group that's in the back, looking for, is there anyone who's here representing a larger group? If you're kind of representing 10 or more, there's arbitrary, the numbers. So if it's like, oh, it was 9, raise your hand. Yeah, go ahead. If you're representing a group, come on up and speak on behalf. Thank you.
Representing Tsunabe. We're all back here kind of chit-chatting, wondering where we would register for the exemptions.
So the exemption part will be when you re-register based off of your bit. We'll have something there when you re-register that says you're exempt. You will go to the Kadena-based school.
So we'll register at Kadena,
You'll register at your zoned school.
at the zoned school, and it will go through that way. All right.
And I know that's a giant size pain in the neck, and I'll apologize for that up front. It helps me to get the accountability piece of this is where, if all of these families weren't exempt, this is the proposed number that I would have there.
Okay. Another thing we're chatting about back here a little bit is a lot of the bases are able to have town hall meetings and meet with you or meet with other people regarding subjects such as this, the rezoning and any other things that come up. Living off base, we don't have that opportunity. And I'd just like you and any leadership who is here to consider those of us who live off base to include us in some kind of town hall meeting or some way that our voices can be heard and we don't have to come to this magnitude of a meeting here tonight.
Well, actually, I'm happy to see you all here tonight because this truly is supposed to be about what's working and what's not in our schools. So I would encourage you to attend your school SAC meetings. That really is where a lot of these things are initially discussed. I know it's sometimes hard to get away, but that really is the idea behind it. We've hosted town hall meetings at Kubasaki, at Kadena, up at Bechtel, and I'll tell you that the biggest group I had so far was 15. So I'm happy to see folks here tonight. This is not the way to do it. I will also say this is a first opportunity for a Facebook Live event for us, mostly because we hadn't thought of it, I think, more than anything else. It may be something that we try going forward for these types of meetings to give families an opportunity. The questions that you asked were actually questions that had come in on our Facebook thing, and they were there for me to address. So again, an opportunity for that. We grow, we're learning. So that's kind of the business we're in.
Thank you for the question. And as we go through, yep, we got another one. Perfect. Sorry. Go ahead.
Dave Rowan, her lesser half, I guess. I'm also one of the Tsunabe impacted parents, and 2 questions for you. I was on the bus transportation website today at 16:30. The map that's posted there is still for the school year 13-14. When will the updated map be posted?
That's an awesome question. Yeah. Well, as soon as I can get in touch with my transportation folks, we should be able to have that done, I would think, by the end of the week.
Okay. Last question. The reason we're here to a great extent is because of the process and how this was done with a lack of transparency and communications. Can you commit going forward in future rezoning actions that there will be transparency, communications, openness with the people who are affected by those actions?
I can commit that I'll work to do better.
Thank you.
All right, and one thing I'll say before we go to the next question is, as a service representative, the question about town halls. I know there are some school-specific town halls, but I also want to highlight that all of the services have periodic town halls. For the Army, we're doing them quarterly. Actually, I at 13:30 was sitting in a very similar context this afternoon because we had our Army town hall today, and I know the Marine Corps has hosted town halls to get that community voice, et cetera, across the board. If you live on post or off post or on a boat on the shore, we want you at our town hall. The service that is most connected to your SOFA status, go to that town hall. And if you're not sure, come to the Army one. We're glad to have you. And we're small. And the school liaison officers are also another place where you can get that kind of community feedback back and forth. And so I just want to highlight once again those, possibilities. I saw a hand here. Go ahead.
How you doing, sir? It just dawned on me, Mr. Journey, I appreciate you listening to the parents. My wife pointed out, I have 5 children, 4 of them are within your school district. And it dawned on me that my 8-year-old rides your bus home now, right? And I'm in a unique situation because I have an older child who can drive off base. So she can pick him up and all that. So you not providing transportation for us, for my family, is not so much a big hardship. We'll find a way to work out. So I appreciate that because we came here hot. Just want to let you know, sir. But with you making that concession, concession, I truly appreciate that. But I'm thinking about the other families, and specifically one of my troops who has a younger child who rides the bus home with his older sibling. But now they won't be able to do that. Have you gotten with the other organizations on Kadena, for instance, the youth center or the teen center, because I know they're going through the transition period where they're going to be moving also, to incorporate to see if they're going to have room for a lot of these kids now who are going to have to find after school programs because they can no longer ride home with their older siblings and hang out at home for maybe an hour or two for their parents to get home.
To be honest with you, sir, no, I haven't. And again, the opportunity, I can provide transportation from the foster schools for that, and that's what I have available at this point. But I'm not able to provide that from the Kadena schools down into the Tsunabe zone. So that's going to be a responsibility of parents or community. One of the things that I heard the other day is, oh, we're all pretty close and we're happy to drive other folks' kids back and forth and do those. But it's one of those things that I am able to offer. I can only offer transportation one way. And so families are going to have to find that way to make that work.
Yes, sir. I'm not asking about the transportation portion. I understand that, there has to be some give and take in the situation. I'm asking about the capacity of the other centers or the other organizations on base, because your schools have stopped sending transportation to Tsunabe. So now these parents have to find places for their kids to go after school. Have you guys reached out to, like I said, the youth center or the teen center? Because I know they're going through transitions where they're going to be moving because FSS is moving them. Are they going to have the capacity to hold some of these kids that might be going to their after school programs?
So I'm going to tell you, no, I haven't done that. But we have some really good people sitting in the back of the room who know a lot more about that than I do. Mr. Lamb, you want to raise your hand and smile there? Mr. Lamb is our schools liaison officer on the Air Force Base here, and he works very closely with the after school programs and the teens and youth centers. And so I bet he can help us with that kind of information. But it's a good point, sir. It's not a fix-all for that. It's an opportunity for some families.
Don't let the socks fool you. This is actually a serious question. Ken Horn, I'm the ET/FRS at Kadena Elementary School. And I think it's fantastic that you're extending an exception for waivers to the kids who are currently in schools they're not zoned for. Can you tonight tell us that teachers will be given that same courtesy? There's a lot of angst and concern with teachers who have kids that are wavered into their schools.
And so one of the things that we talked about, or I spoke of earlier, was that this was an exemption. and that we would be looking at waivers individually, but that we would look more closely at new waivers and try to honor all of the waivers that we currently have. That piece being said, I'm not going to give a blanket tonight and say, yep, everybody's going to where they go. And the reason for that is because in each and every case on the waivers, it says that it's year by year. No, he's talking about teachers specifically who. No, they're not. It's and that's why I'm saying that's why we're calling this an exemption, not a blanket waiver policy. But we will, again, it's not going to be the 800 waivers that we had. Those won't be. We're not going to say nope, no waivers for next year, and all 800 have to go somewhere else. We've got to show a little compassion. And as much as there are folks who wouldn't agree, I'm not quite as cold-hearted as folks might put out.
It's like a medium to warm room temperature. So I want to invite, like I'd said earlier, and we may have gotten to the point of boredom, but if there's any youth voices out there, just kind of, this is always a great opportunity to have our kids, come forward and make a comment or a question with regard to learning. Like I said, we waited too long. They're all distracted. Oh, no, we didn't. We got one. There we go. So, Mike is yours.
So, my name's Mary Tracy, and I go to Kadena High School, and I'm a freshman. And on my behalf and all the other students, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much. This has been really stressful. And coming here, I was scared that I was going to have to come up here and stamp my foot and be like, listen to me, okay? I will stay at this school. I will walk up there. You will have to drag me out. But I am so thankful that you guys considered it, and I'm excited to see what we can do moving forward. Thank you.
So Mary Tracy, stand back up, please. All right, no, don't go away just yet. So if you notice, I have on my Dr. Seuss tie today. That's because I got to go hang out with some little kids and read to them today in celebration of Dr. Seuss Week. I will tell you that your speech right there was the second thing today to warm my heart.
All right, we're looking, just before we go to the general audience, any other youth voices? I want to give them that chance. Hard act to follow. I'll admit that. I'm actually feeling a little nervous. I say way more than that. Okay, so with that, just kind of generally open it up to the audience. Sir, come on up to the mic and say your piece.
Hello, my name is Sergio Mendoza, and I'm a teacher at Kadena High School. I've been there for 20 years, and I live in Sunabe, and I just wanted to clarify because I was a little confused. Does the exemption policy, does that also for civilians, or is it just military?
It is civilians. Sunabe is Sunabe. It's not based off of your affiliation.
Thank you very much.
I'm glad that everybody from Sunabe is happy, but my student goes to Kupasaki. These were resources that we were going to get. Classes we weren't going to lose. Teachers that are going to Kadena to teach classes that we will lose. How are you going to fix that? And you hear the fear and the concern about going to Kupasaki. That is the reputation our school has. I have graduated one student there. I have another one that will be a senior next year, and I have one that will be a freshman next year. Drama's going away. One of my favorite teachers, who is overage, was informed in January that she was going somewhere else, and now I find out she's taking her passion and skill to Kadena. Their gain, our loss. How are you going to fix that for Kupasaki? And my other fear is that the word will get out, don't live in Tsunabe because now you're going to be zoned for Kubasaki. And so those numbers that we're hoping for, they're not going to come. They're not going to materialize. They will move closer to Kadena. Just like if I were moving to Stafford County, I would, in Virginia, like we did, we researched all the schools, we looked at the programs that we wanted to be a part of, and we chose the neighborhood we wanted to live in so that we could be zoned for that high school. The same thing will continue to happen as long as Kubasaki has this terrible reputation. And I've heard Kadena students call it the ghetto school. We have to fix that.
Ma'am, I can't disagree that there are less, there are going to be less staff members because there are less students. That's the way that piece works.
That is unfair. That is unfair. We should have the same. We should have a drama program. We should have a French teacher. I know my student wants to take AP Environmental Science next year. The teacher that I'm referring to was going to teach AP Environmental Science next year. The other teacher who teaches that is planning on retiring. She no longer has AP Environmental Science as a choice. That is a class that she can't take. She's taking Human Anatomy this year. That teacher teaches Human Anatomy. If somebody else teaches it, I'm not aware. But I know that her passion and her skill and her love of her students is going to travel to Kadena.
And again, staffing is based off of student enrollment, which is why we're looking at how do we rezone folks that are there. And as we have new families that move in, there won't be waivers granted.
But they
could
won't
choose.
come. They won't come to Kubasaki because we lose those classes. Why would you send your child to a school that you know doesn't have the programs your child is into? We have an art program and we have a music program. If the drama program goes away, that's it. So for kids who need that creative outlet, they no longer possess that. They don't have it. It's just not an option. And I mean, the physical of Kubasaki, everybody knows that's an open secret. There has to be a solution that is not just based on numbers.
May I address you just as a parent? Because I think we were planning and prepared to come in here and first and foremost say that from all of us to Tsunabe, to Leicester, and to Kubasaki, this is not against you at all. The heart of the matter is wanting to keep our kids with some stability. So from parent to parent, I get it. I get your position, but please know that that's not why we're here. I never heard ghetto school. First time I'm hearing it. This is about giving our kids some stability, and that's why those of us in this room are here. We wish Kubasaki and Leicester the very best and want the most for your numbers and your staff and everything there. We want our kids to have the stability. Thank you.
Laura, you had a comment?
One school shouldn't be better than the other. We shouldn't have a AAA school and a single A school in the same 5-mile radius.
We want all of it for all of our kids. This isn't about your kids or our kids. These are all our military kids and teachers' kids and contractors' kids. We should all be applying this message that this training has. We need this for all of our kids.
I just have a question. When imbalance in enrollment happens in stateside high schools, schools and communities that are close by, they share programs. Have you considered using transportation somehow between the two high schools so that the students can take advantage of what's at both? That's different.
And I would wholly support that.
Yeah, I want to add on that because last year at the Pacific Education Council, I specifically addressed that they need to get both of these schools on an A-B day schedule, just because that's the way you can do it, and have bus transportation at lunchtime so that if there's only a drama program at Kadena, but there's only a AP French at Kubi, that those kids can access those programs. I think the programs, you have access to everything. Two, when you get this, I don't want to be at Kadena or I don't want to be at Kubi, that goes away because these kids have friends at both of those schools. I've seen it done in districts in the States. It works. I mean, you maximize your resources to more students instead of it's only at Kadena or it's only at Kubasaki.
Yep.
So those are some great ideas. And I can tell you that I don't have answers for you tonight. And again, the idea being staffing is based off of student enrollment. That is a Dodea-wide kind of issue. This is a unique situation in some ways because most places, most Dodea communities don't have two high schools in this close of proximity. In most cases, you have complexes where you might have one or two elementary schools, a middle school, and one high school. And most of those high schools, quite honestly, the majority of the high schools in Dodea are 300 to 400. So both of our high schools are considered large high schools and have rich offerings compared to many of the Dodea schools that are more dependent upon virtual kinds of education than we are. That doesn't solve the issue completely, I know that. Earlier this year, I was preparing for a brief that I was doing and I looked at the programs that were offered between the schools. At that point, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but I want to say there are 35 AP courses that are offered through College Board. The average high school in the United States offers 8. Both of our schools offer well more than 8. One offered 14 and the other one offered 18 at that particular time. Kubasaki offered more than Kadena did. The languages that were taught. There had been a question about French. French was only available at Kadena. Chinese is only available at Kubasaki. Otherwise, they both offer Spanish, they both offer Japanese. And so again, those opportunities. Did Kubasaki lose their drama program for next year? They did lose the teaching slot for that, or a part of it. But there is an opportunity for them to run a drama program or club as that event. So there are other opportunities that are there, and we have to make the way forward with that. We're going to continue to strive to increase the enrollment there because it creates more opportunity, more classes, and more resources that are there. We're working to address the physical facility piece, again, assuming that the money would have, or that the contract would have been let for that, we should be building a new school there now, but we're not. So now we have to go forward from the standpoint of, this is what we've got. How do we make the very best of it that it is? What kind of things can I do the most quickly to make the biggest impact on boys and girls?
All right, ma'am, you've been standing patiently at the mic. The floor is yours.
Thank you. First off, I want to address the town hall meeting comment. I was actually advised by my spouse's individual command to attend a town hall meeting. I did, however, I live off base, and the entire town hall meeting was evidently about residential issues. Curbs, the 5-day store, the gate, their power, their water. Off base needs a town hall atmosphere. However, tonight I come in front of you to actually propose that we freeze the rezoning efforts. I do not feel that a grandfather clause of waivers solves the issues for any of these families that do not have the ability to transport their children themselves twice a day, every day, for an entire school year. I do not feel that there has been enough data analysis reviewed. I do not feel that there has been enough alternative measures reviewed as to what our next step would be. I went to Kadena Middle School earlier this week and I said, if for chance your school is so filled that you legally, against fire code safety, cannot have another student here, what would you do? And they said, we would deny a waiver. And tonight, Mr. Journey, you said that you have 800 waivers in this district. I think that should be our first step. Children should go to the schools they are zoned to go to before we start rezoning these schools. Your words, you said that you aren't even a big believer in the numbers of those attending Kadena Middle School on waiver, leading me to believe that you do not have accurate data, which means the data could not have been analyzed. You also said that you looked at the numbers for children moving out of Tsunabe. And again, your quote was, you aren't comfortable with the numbers. And you have led us to believe that you looked into them after the newsletter because it was based off of your meeting with parents from Tsunabe, which means before the decision was made, the numbers of those PCSing in and out were not looked at. We do have a housing rotation. The houses are opening up. More people are moving onto base. Do we have a data analysis? I believe you said tonight also that Kubasaki used to have more students and Kadena used to have less. So what do we do when Kubasaki's numbers are too high? Is our long-term plan to rezone again? Uproot these children and families again? This sets the precedent for what we are going to do. I believe that according to the rules and regulations outlined in DODEA Regulation 1342.13 that we need to freeze this under reference H, DOD Manual 4500.34R. It talks about transportation needing to be the most cost-effective. Transporting these kids from Tsunabe to Kadena Middle School and High School averages 8 kilometers a day round trip. Transporting those same students down to Leicester and Kubasaki is 18.6 kilometers a day. That difference over a year for one bus route is 1,908 kilometers a year. That is not the most effective and the most cost-effective according to DOD Manual 4500.34R. I propose that we freeze this rezoning until an accurate and full assessment of all the data, housing, the commands, the families, and DODEA come together. Thank you.
You for your comments.
So do we have any other questions for or comments? Oh, we got somebody coming up. Oh, no,
Nope,
never mind.
just sitting down.
You're good. Everybody needs a bathroom break. Sir, go ahead.
Yep, thank you. As earlier mentioned, I'm the PE teacher here at Sterling. First, let me say thank you for not eating in the gym. Almost. So I'm in attendance because of waiver concerns also. I'm a local hire. I live in Nago with my wife and children. They are all zoned for Bechtel, which is an awesome school. I used to work there. However, they come with me now to Shees, and there's no bus stop in Nago. There's a bus stop in Ken, but my students have to be there by 8, and I have to be here at 8. So obviously that doesn't work out all right. So up to this point, I've been all right, but know that you're looking at case-by-case basis, and I appreciate that. But it's my dearest hope that my kids can come to school with me here, okay? And I just want to make sure that's heard tonight. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So we're getting to probably our last one or two folks coming up to the microphone. We are at 19:30. And so I just want to point that out. But ma'am, you're up there, so go ahead.
Just a social emotional question, concern, because I'm a school counselor. Are you going to give any consideration to the students who are on waivers, who, if their waiver is denied, has to attend a new school instead of the school that they currently attend? One of the things that we deal with as school counselors with the social emotional piece, these babies already have to deal with a lot of changes and transitions. So that's a concern that I have.
Again, we're going to have to slow roll those waivers. Ultimately, again, over that same 3-year kind of period-ish, I'd like to be out of the waiver business and the onesies or twosies, but I know we can't do that for 800 students next year. And so, yes, we will be considering those things. And again, how long do they have left? When is the PCS cycle? When do those things happen? We can't make all those decisions in one night and as a blanket.
All right, thank you, sir. So as a way of wrapping up the meeting, I wanted to invite some of our distinguished guests to make any closing comments. So Colonel Doan, do you have anything you want to add for the group? And sir, I'm going to, okay. General Bowers, do you have anything you want to say for the community, sir?
So first of all, I really appreciate everyone coming out tonight. I have 3 children too, and they're attending EC Killen. And I understand how important a decision it is with where your kids go to school. I understand the importance of having the right program for them, and making this experience over here, doing hard things in hard places. That's what service members do, as positive as possible. Sharon, thank you for your comments. Laura, thank you for your comments. I have been on the ground at Kubasaki High School. I talked to Dr. Rapp today. She's the director of DoD Pacific. I share your concern and your passion we don't want to hurt any families, right? And when Mr. Journey and I met earlier this week, I supported his efforts with what he needs to do to balance the enrollment over time, but not break families and not disrupt the child's education. But at the same time, everything that Sharon said is right. Those are very valid concerns. And we share your passion for the education of our children. I haven't been to Kubasaki since the new principal's been here, but we will do what we can to bring Kubasaki up. And I want to thank all of you for your concern, for your passion, for coming out. Our children's education is our future. So thank you. I learned a lot from listening. Semper Fidelis.
Thank you very much, sir. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending tonight. With that, we will adjourn the meeting. I think I have to have a motion to adjourn. Somebody's yelling at me. Motion to adjourn? Or do we have a second? All right, we've got multiple seconds, so we will adjourn.